Ready?
It's not 6:30 yet. We only have four board members on here, so let's wait a couple minutes and see if we get more to join.
Okay. Then I'm gonna go on mute so I don't say anything bad. I turned my-
Hey, did you send out an agenda for tonight's meeting?
I don't think I've received an agenda, Patty.
It's posted on Facebook. All right, it's 6:32. I think we have quorum, so and nobody else is going to jump in. So we have one item on the agenda this evening and possibly another one. We'll
I'm
just
sorry, I can't seem to get on the link again.
Okay, I will send it to you, Mac, okay?
Okay, yeah, you're gonna send it on email?
Yes, we'll send it on email right now.
Okay, got it, I'll be there, bye.
Okay, thanks, bud. That was Mac. He is actually just looking for the, you got that, Jen? Okay,
he's
so
trying to log in.
he's gonna log in right now.
Okay.
How was everybody's Thanksgiving, by the way?
It was
Nice to
good.
see
How
you.
was yours, Patty?
Good. I cooked and I actually enjoyed cooking from 6 a.m. in the morning. It was great.
Yeah, I did the same. We host every year. It's my favorite holiday.
Yeah, me too. It's one of those things where it's like you get up early enough because you know nobody's waking up with you at 6 a.m. starting to cut and peel and do all that. And then I actually had my tree up before December 1st, which my husband is having a fit about. He was like, it's not even December. I'm like, tomorrow's December. We
Is
got
that
it.
is that Mac?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. For some reason, when I had the link, it wasn't working, so my apologies.
Great.
I didn't forget it tonight.
All right, we got everybody on. Let's push in. We call to order. We got quorum. Myself, Rebecca, Henry's on. Thomas is in the room with Patty, and Mac is on. Did I get everybody? All the board members are present. Patty's on. Jennifer's in the other room. All right. The Before we begin, so what do we want to do first, Patty? Let's
Do
pull
you want
things
to
up.
make Well, you want to make an amendment?
Yeah, so I'd like to add one item to the agenda this evening. A resident had an ARC request that was recently denied. The ARC ruling was in alignment with the ARC guidelines. Directly after the denial, the resident voiced an opinion and her intention to appeal the decision to the board. And she has that right. And in light of the fact that this is dealing with roof damage and it's a very incredibly stressful event for one of our neighbors, I'd like to motion that we expedite her appeal process, add it to the agenda this evening rather than going through the usual process, and motion, and at the end, motion to either uphold or reject the decision of the ARC committee. So my motion is to expedite her appeal process and discuss it at tonight's meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Right. All right. At this time, the floor is open. I think that the Cami, is that you on the?
Yeah, hi.
Great. Hi. I'm sorry. First off, let me begin by saying I'm sorry that your guys' roof got damaged during the hurricane. That's horrible. I can't imagine how stressful that is. So at this point, the floor is open for you to discuss your request, and then the board will discuss it.
So I had sent, and I don't know, it might have been a little after the fact, email to Jennifer with some documents that I found that might help you with your decision, but it's and I also forwarded it to the management email as well. It's an HOA down in West Palm Beach called Juneau Isles, or the Ridge at Juneau Isles, I think. And they did an entire study on whether or not they should allow the standing seam metal roof to be a part of their community. And there's a wealth of information in there on the reasons why this particular roof is far superior to shingle. But just to highlight a few things, they're fireproof. It reduces energy cost by 40%. When it does meet the end of its life cycle, which would probably be about 75 years from now, it is fully recyclable, whereas shingle roofs are not. So ultimately, what we want to do is avoid having to go through this again in the future. Insurance costs are already through the roof, and after this, it's going to get even worse. We both work in the insurance industry. Probably majority of us will be canceled and be looking for a home, which we may not find. So in that event, if I have a metal roof on my house and another storm comes, I'm not as concerned about what terms I'm taking from an insurance company, because that's my biggest risk. So we're really just trying to mitigate moving forward, our exposure. Right now we're really exposed because we have a tarp on our roof, and thank God we haven't had any rain to this point. But I mean, ultimately it improves the look of the house. Energy costs go down by 40%. There really isn't a reason to not do it. I think you saw that a lot of our other neighbors have expressed interest as well. The cost right now is not as exorbitant as you might think. We got a very reasonable quote where we're only going to be out of pocket $10,000. The pre-approved metal roofs, we got a quote for more than double what our quote is for the standing seam. It's just not attainable. And frankly, it's an inferior product. So I feel like you have all the reasons. It looks beautiful. We're not going with the galvanized look. It would be black to kind of, and then ultimately we will change the color of our house. We just can only take one financial crisis at a time. So it will match. I mean, and we plan on doing that probably around February. Right. So it'll be rather quick and it will all look, very beautiful. I just don't see a reason not to do it.
And honestly, it's a higher quality product than the metal that is in the neighborhood already.
Right next door. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I mean, we're not trying to upset the apple cart, but it really is like the roof will last, like she said, like long beyond any of our lives. and will never show any wear or tear, and it actually protects us and our family in the future when a storm comes through. I mean, the idea of putting a shingle roof on this year and potentially having a storm come through and blowing it off next year.
And to keep going through this, it's just,
the process
just insane.
Yeah.
And I also sent you an article that the local news did on, or it's more like they called it a project about the increasing threat to Tampa Bay. And this will not be our last rodeo. It may even happen again next year. And I can't do this every single time. It's not sustainable. Additionally, I also sent you an article about the lone standing house after Hurricane Michael came through. And the only reason that it was still standing was because it was lifted and it had a metal roof.
And aesthetically, it like increases, I mean, the look and value of the neighborhood. I mean, if other people jump on board and want to do it and you guys approve it, it's only going to make the neighborhood look even better.
It'll dress it up a little bit. I mean, it is different for sure. There's no denying that, but it will look infinitely better than the, I don't even remember what they call ultra rib, I think is what some of the houses have on the lower portion of their
Where
houses.
it's got the rivets.
You can see the rivets. We're not
Yeah.
trying to do that. You won't be able to see any screws or anything like that. So it will obviously look considerably better than that. And it does not rust. It has a 40-year paint guarantee. So if it starts to bubble or anything, they come and they fix it.
All right. Thank you very much for presenting that. So at this time, it's up to the board to discuss. I will begin with reading from the ARC, the preface to the ARC, and I think we can find some guidance in our documents to help guide our decisions. So right at the end of the very beginning, it says, a mixture of various styles and types of housing is more aesthetically pleasing than repetitive housing. So the ARC is acknowledging the fact that variation from house to house is important. It does say that streetscapes should be designed to ensure a gradual transition from one type of home to another. So you can't have the houses that you see in this community, and then let's say somebody's house burns down, they can't say, well, I want to build a log cabin, and then we approve a log cabin. So it's got to be a gradual transition. So those are kind of the two guiding principles that I looked at when I was formulating my opinion. But I will let everyone else speak first.
I can give my opinion on it. Can you hear me from here, Mark?
Yes, loud and clear, Thomas. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like we've got some friends that have the metal shingle roofs, and I was talking to Patty about it right before coming in. I'm actually more concerned with those because in the last storms they ripped off the metal shingles and started throwing those around the neighborhood.
Right.
So like that part, dug into a little bit about like the home value. It actually goes up with the metal roofs. So I'm not concerned on that, those two big aspects of it, I guess. So like I'm supportive of it. Obviously, I think as we plan forward, my concern would be how do we kind of standardize, force the painting, those kind of things. But I think that's a thing we can address in the future after this one.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments?
Mark, do you mind if I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Mac.
Yeah, I actually was the board member at the last board that raised the issue of after Ian of allowing metal roofs. So I remain a supporter of them. My roof is being redone right now. I decided not to go to the metal roof. All of those reasons that the family made were good, but it's also a time frame, and ours came in actually significantly more than the shingle. So I'm not putting one on. I didn't apply, but I do think, first of all, we've already approved them. I also think, frankly, that the standing seam is, an acceptable look in most neighborhoods. The only issue would be if it's the only house in the whole neighborhood, then that's a challenge too, right? Because then your transition is a little bit more difficult. But that I support it. I think standing seems okay. I think if one goes in, you'll start seeing more people put them in, and frankly, I don't mind the silver color. I think that actually looks classy. That was the last board did not accept that. So when it comes to colors, I'm pretty open-minded too. So that's just my take. But can we just do it on an emergency change, or do we have to change the ARC before we can make the approval? That's more of a procedural question I have.
So procedurally, right? So the ARC, and I remember somebody on Facebook once misquoted me, and they said, "Oh, well, the president said that all the documents are just guidelines and they can be changed willy-nilly at the board's pleasure." That resident was 100% incorrect. The
Yeah.
bylaws and the charter, to me, are gospel. But the ARC guidelines are just that, guidelines. And it even says it in the introduction that the ARC, if you read the preface of the guidelines, it says that these are just that, guidelines, and the ARC committee can approve things that run counter to the guidelines. So that being said, Mac, to answer your question, generally speaking, on a case-by-case basis, we can approve things that run counter to the guidelines and still keep the guidelines in place as they are. Or we can, at some point next year, do a revision of the guidelines and involve the ARC committee on that to revise the guidelines to include other terms and conditions.
Again, I support it. I'm just making sure we're doing it correctly. But the ARC guidelines are the ARC rules are the rules, right? They're not guidelines. The preface is sort of the general overarching perspective. But if we've got it in there that says the only metal roof approved are the metal shingle roofs, do we have the authority to say we're going to override that on an emergency basis or a case? I want to do it, but the question is, I want to make sure we're doing it correctly. Does that make sense?
So it does say this in the preface. It says this document is intended to serve as a guide. The covenant shall take place over these regulations and standings in any case of conflict. The Fish-Hawk Ranch West Architectural Review Committee reserves the right to require design modifications or additions that, though not specifically contained in the guidelines text, are within the spirit and intent of the guidelines and the design objectives of the Fish-Hawk Ranch West community.
Okay, I'm good, man. I'll go with what the board says, but you asked for opinions, and I'm just giving mine.
Mac, do you remember the discussions that we had, the previous board, with the different types of roofs that were approved? That's my only concern, because that went on for probably 4 or 5 months, and you were part of that meeting with those companies, and why we didn't go with these type of roofs because they're too commercial looking.
Well, I mean, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't agree.
Okay.
I really didn't. Standing seams are on houses in very high-end neighborhoods. If you go around different places,
On the coast, right?
yeah,
They're
well,
coastal usually.
I think almost anywhere. But again,
in Florida, anywhere where there's wind and hurricanes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Anywhere where there's wind and hurricanes.
No, I know, but we're talking
previously.
Yeah, we're talking architectural, and that was the board. And Patty, and I was outvoted, and that's how democracy works. And I got that, so I'm just, my opinion hasn't changed. We seriously considered doing a metal roof, and then in all honesty, my wife said, I'll take an asphalt roof, and I want a home house generator because she needs, she wants her air conditioning. So we made that. That's a personal decision. But I'm telling you, I actually wanted silver as one of the options. The board did not approve that and didn't agree. I acknowledge that, but it didn't change my opinion. I accepted what the board said. Does that track with what I said last year? I mean, you were there, I think, weren't you?
Well, it's not so much the color that I was concerned about, because I didn't personally, I don't have a right to make an opinion, but
Okay.
It's the type versus the color that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was okay with the standing seam last year. I was just happy that we're getting a metal roof,
Right.
people, and so I accept. And actually, I thought maybe we should revisit it at a certain point. Hopefully, when someone put a roof on and they said, "Oh, that doesn't look bad," and I made the argument too that we already have standing seam roofs on houses, just not the whole roof.
Not the whole roof, it's just it's just a portion of the.
I don't think that looks terrible when you walk around the neighborhood. It's an architectural feature. So that was my take. And I'm not going to try to pressure. I'm just my position, and I respect whatever the board decides.
Other members, Scott, let the minutes show that Scott joined the meeting. Welcome.
It is 6:40.
Scott, to catch you up, we're discussing a denial of a standing seam metal roof. The ARC committee denied it in accordance with the guidelines. They did everything, they did it absolutely right. And so now procedurally it comes to the board for discussion. We're talking about, and you've seen the packet ahead of time that Patty sent out. Rebecca or Henry or
Yeah.
Scott, do you guys have any thoughts or opinions?
I do. So I agree that the standing metal roof is probably a more durable option. I do agree that from a trend perspective, they're going in much higher end neighborhoods. I think it looks really nice on both, modern houses versus more traditional houses, and it's already in the neighborhood. So I'm definitely in favor of, you know, considering, allowing that particular roof type. The only question I have is from a precedence perspective, do we have any others in the neighborhood who have requested this type of roof that we've denied? No. Okay, good. That would be my only concern if we were approving some and not others.
And that's why we had to go through this step by step.
Yeah.
And I know,
Okay.
Cammie, this was kind of frustrating to you. Why do you have to go through the step by step process? Why can't we just bump it straight to the board? And the reason is because we don't want to be accused of being dictators or despots, and well, the board just makes decisions willy-nilly without going through the process. So we had to do it. It's been a little frustrating for you, and I know that. So, Rebecca, any other comments?
No, I think the look of it, the color, I think we can talk through. It sounds like Ms. Palmer has a plan for making sure that it's seamless and aligned with the other art guidelines. So from that perspective, I think I would be in favor as long as it's not bright pink, something of that nature.
And actually,
Oh,
Chief,
man.
what they're asking for is something that's not in the art guidelines. This is totally
Okay.
different, color-wise and texture-wise.
How are the colors differing, Patty?
I think we approved the grays and the browns and the darker colors for the darker color homes, like the ones that have the, Mark, what are those ones that, the like clay, the
Hold on.
terracotta tops?
Patty, I'm gonna pull it up now and screenshot
Okay.
so everybody can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the terracotta tiles. That's what you were talking about. Yeah.
Can
Exactly.
you-
So they were the darker colors. So it was the oranges, the browns, the more of the natural colors, nothing bright, nothing that's gonna make it stand out.
What color were they asking for? I mean,
Silver,
I thought it was black, they said.
It's black.
black.
Yeah, okay.
Can
Sorry.
you, Jennifer, can you let me screen share, please?
Yes, I'm sorry. She's gonna do that right now. Get in there, sorry.
Cool. Got this right here. Share. All right, so these are the metal roofs that were approved by the committee. We essentially formed a committee within the board to look at all the different kinds of metal roofs out there. And these are the ones that were approved, 50-year warranties. And to be clear, the first sentence, the below colors are provided as a recommendation based on a review of the roof colors throughout Fishhawk Ranch West. Variations are, they're allowed to request for variations. They're allowed to request for different vendors, but these are the styles that the metal roof committee wanted to come up with, right? And as you can see, they're metal, withstand winds of up to 200 miles per hour, 40-year fade and chipping warranties, all of those good things. But they look like the roofs throughout the rest of the community, and so it's not disruptive to the nature. You can see some look like the terracotta roofs, others look like actual shingles.
Right.
So, and then these were the colors that were approved as, they drove around, they looked at all the different kinds of colors in the community and made sure that what would be approved would mesh pretty well with the rest of the community. So doing a roof study and looking at this, I know there are some homes that do have the standing seam metal roofs as accents, perhaps over entryways or the garage or things like that. But I was not able to find another house in all of Fishhawk that has a standing seam metal roof, not just Fishhawk West, but all of Fishhawk. So this would be groundbreaking and precedent setting for the entire area. Mac, if you're trying to speak, you are on
Yeah,
mute.
I'm looking for the button. And you're right, and that captures a lot of what we talked about. Whereas you're matching the architectural look as much as the other one, and I acknowledge that, right? So when you said the transition, if only one is put in the house in the community, it will be a jarring transition potentially on the block. And I guess that was one of the other questions I did have for the family was, or Cami, I'm sorry. They say these are inferior, but it seems like the rules and the warranty and everything else are exactly the same. So again, I'm not an expert on either of these, so I that would be a question I did have is if I'm
So
looking.
the shingle, the metal shingle, and I think someone just mentioned it, where it looks like asphalt shingle, but it's actually metal. They are not standing up to the lift test. So during a hurricane, they have high potential to lift and start flying. And I don't know about you, but I don't want that hitting my house. I heard what it sounds like to have asphalt shingles hitting my house all night, and it was horrible. To have that hitting your house is, I honestly, I'm not even sure it should be approved, because that is causing further damage probably to amenities, to cars, breaking windows. Whereas this roof will not lift off. It won't. It's hurricane clipped, it's interlocked, there's no screws, nothing. So it is an inferior product because it's not withstanding the test of time. This product has been around for a very long time. It's tried and true. It may be the first in Fishhawk, but I promise you it won't be the last, because after Milton and potentially even Ian, no one wants to go through that again. And what we're dealing with in the insurance crisis, it's only going to get worse. You'll see more carriers leave the state, and we're all vulnerable.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just looking at the True Nature roof tiles. They have a 200-mile-an-hour wind gusts, 50-year warranty, 40 years paint. So again, I'm not an expert on comparing them. I was just asking that.
Sure. Well, just to
So-
give you some reference, we did get a quote from them. So we called the manufacturer directly, and they sent about 12 roofers to our house. And I think our highest was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Our quote for the standing seam through Laura Cook's roofer
Tornado.
in the neighborhood, Tornado,
Yeah.
was 34,000.
And the standing seam withholds like 300-mile-an-hour
Yeah.
winds, as opposed to, I mean, yeah. So like our concern is we put a shingle roof on this year, storm comes through next year, roof blows off again, and we're back in the same situation. Or we can put a metal roof on that's going to withstand 300 miles an hour, and you can pick a color, whether approved or not, and it's basically a 100-year roof. Like, we'll all be long gone before the roof blows off.
Yeah, well, I'm not that young. That's why I ended up not. No, I don't mean argumentative. These are, I think.
No,
Sure, yeah.
No.
I haven't seen one either. So
Yeah, but I stand by my earlier assessment. I'm comfortable with the standing seam roof personally. It's just, but I'm only one of 7 board members, so I defer.
Well, and in fact, like when we talked to the roofers, they said that the underlayment, that is a 50-year underlayment they put on, that also helps your insurance, that will deteriorate before the roof does. And it's not going to ever show anything. It's not going to show wear. It's not going to show tear. If the paint is an issue, it's got a 40-year warranty, 35, 40-year warranty. I mean, it honestly is like, it's one and done. Unless you decide you want to change the color of your house, and then you got to change the color of the roof.
Rebecca.
I just I guess from the point that was made about it being the first in Fishhawk, we got to start somewhere, right? And so if we're going to do it, somebody's always going to go first, and some people don't want to go first, some people don't want to go last, but I think if this, I mean, many neighbors have, had roof issues over the past summer. Several, I had to replace my roof last year because of Ian, and many people have had a lot of roof issues. So I definitely think that there's probably an appetite for it. And I don't know that, there's any necessarily downside other than it looks different than anything else that we have in the neighborhood right now. So if we were to approve it and allow it, probably within a couple of years, it's going to be more commonplace, especially if we keep having hurricanes the way we're having them.
Yeah, Mark, can you show where it actually limits the material of roof in the guidelines? Exhibit C just talks about the recommended, but I don't see anything in the guidelines that specifically states what material must be used. The only sections I see talks about how there does have to be variation from either house side to side and across the street.
Mhm.
So I know we have that committee and that's fine, but Exhibit C, which is I think what you're referring to, only talks about I think the header is what recommended.
Right. Recommended. Is that the metal roofs one? The ones I showed?
Yeah. Exhibit C, recommend metal roof manufacturer. So recommended is not a requirement.
So if you go
So
to
how is the
4.2,
guidelines?
4.20 is where it talks about roof maintenance, and it says homeowners must keep their roofs free of mildew. The HOA will treat the situation as a violation. Doesn't apply. When changing the roof color or material, the homeowner must submit a request for improvement application and include color designation and actual sample of the roof material. Material and color must be reviewed and approved by the ARC prior to installation. And when roof materials are applied to any structure within Fishhawk Ranch West without the corresponding approval of the ARC, it will be subject to removal and replacement at the expense of the homeowner. So that's paragraph 4.2.
Correct, but what is the ARC committee using as their basis to deny someone if there's not a list of
It's
approved
from
material?
it's from the original build.
Right. So it's
No,
the-
but it doesn't state that. It says if you change, you just need to submit it to the ARC for
Right,
approval.
but you're changing from the
Right.
original building.
right. So
Sorry.
it is guidelines. It's not prescriptive of saying this is the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
You got to go to the other paragraphs within the ARC where it talks about how the committee will make rulings and judgments and how it is their responsibility to ensure the aesthetic continuity of the community. So if I wanted to install a cinder block bunker over my house on my roof that would withstand 500-mile-per-hour winds, that was exceedingly cheap, and it only cost me $5,000, it's completely different than everything else in the community and not aesthetically pleasing. So just because it's cheaper and
Correct.
withstands tornadoes, it doesn't get approved, right?
But
So-
that would change the coloring between houses and everything else. If they're staying with the coloring, like their denial letter states that the reason for denial is see page 28 of the ARC guidelines for the approved metal roofing company.
Because previous to this, the ARC said metal roofs are not authorized in Fishhawk West. The previous version
that's
said
wrong
they
as
were.
well.
It said, what's that?
That's incorrect as well.
So when the founders drafted the documents initially, that's what it said. And that's why we
No,
changed
but
it.
right now I'm saying that this denial letter went out, what, today?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're using Exhibit C as the reason for denial when that is only a recommended list. You can't use that as a recommended list to deny someone.
Yes, they can, because the ARC has the discretion to
Okay.
approve things based on what they think is going to aesthetically affect the community.
Okay.
You can't cover everything in a 20-page document. If I want to put, I don't know, like something ridiculous in my front yard and it's not in the ARC and the ARC doesn't say I can't do it, they can still deny it. You know what I'm saying? Like if I want to put a traffic light or something in my front yard, or if I want to, even in the backyard, right? Like if I want to do something that's disruptive to the continuity, if I want to put a billboard or whatever, or something that's not specifically called out in the ARC, then I can't say, well, it doesn't say I can't, so therefore you can't tell me I can't. Yes, they can. It is their job to maintain the aesthetic pleasure of the neighborhood.
And
But
I
then when
guess,
there's a disagreement, that's when it comes to the board.
Perfect.
and
Just making
so
sure I
I
understand.
guess that's the thing is, for me, is like, it actually will increase the values. It will, like, all of the, what we're trying to do is to only make things better and avoid having to do it in the future.
Mark, can I chime in real quick?
Who's that? Scott, go ahead.
Yep. So let me first say how much I appreciate the Palmer family by doing it the right way, submitting like they should. So, giving us the opportunity. If I, if I think about the commentary that they shared, it definitely struck with me. 2 years ago, my own personal home insurance got canceled because the company went bankrupt, and I didn't even file a claim. So I had to go through that. So I can understand the feedback that they're sharing, and listening to Mac just talk about the amount of work that went through and where he's at. I think if the color stays along the guidelines, I think the aesthetic looks fine with it the same way. But I think what we need to be thinking about is this decision that we're making. It's setting the precedent for the future. And it's fair to say there's not going to be, that this is the last hurricane we're getting, right? The trend is showing there's going to be more. So, more than likely, to point off Rebecca's point, they may be the first, but they're probably not going to be the last. And if this is a good look and it's a cheaper cost, I feel the same way that Mac does. This makes sense to me just simply based off of listening it and reviewing it the same way. So just wanted to share my feedback on that.
Thanks, Scott.
Does the board feel like they have enough information to make a decision at this point? I know you were sent this information. You shouldn't have been, county shouldn't have been put on the agenda until the 19th. After she submitted an appeal to us, and then we got more information. Mark wanted to push it through to see if the board would consider it. But my concern is, does the board feel they have enough information to make a decision at this time?
May I speak?
Yep.
I actually, Mark, and Patty, I commend you. I think this is the right decision because these are extenuating circumstances. We expedited the approval process for all the roofs, right? It was, they were doing.
Not all, just for certain ones.
But if you were changing, the ARC was meeting every day. They were making approvals. I remember the message went out.
No.
What had happened was only those roofs that were affected by hurricanes. When the reports came in, I made the decision, yes or no. I just made the executive decision and say, yep, they're using the same shingles, the same roofing. There's no reason to delay them and have their contractors move on to a different roof and then miss the chance to have their roof replaced. And we would approve them immediately.
Right.
This one was different.
No,
This was different because I couldn't unilaterally make this decision because it's so different from everything else.
No, what I'm saying is I'm commending you because I'm saying we're doing the right thing. Like you said, it's an extra step and the Palmers had to deal with it. But I also understand you're absolutely correct. I'm agreeing with you 100%. But I think expediting it because for the same reason, we are expediting other processes to help. There's nothing wrong with us expediting this process. To answer the question that Patty, that I'm very comfortable doing this because I think it's the right thing to do. Because just like it's different. So we're pausing to take a considered approach. And so I'm comfortable at this point to answer Patty's question. I was just complimenting you and Patty for pushing this through and making the emergency change to the agenda is also appropriate. So it was a compliment, guys.
I will say this in conclusion that I'm not much of my concluding statement anyways. I'm not much of a groundbreaker when it comes to the way things are written and documented, and I don't like to change the bylaws and the charter and things like that. A bit of a constitutionalist, and I think that it should stand the way it is. So, and this isn't going to be a popular opinion, but I'm opposed to the standing ridge roofs. I just think that it's going to be unique and different from everything else. And I have to think of the neighbors to the left and right and across the street and all the other ones in the community that when they go to sell their house and someone says, well, I don't want to live next to the barn house or the industrial looking house. that it affects an entire community. It's more than just one person we have to think about. And I'm all about metal roofs. I think that we should have metal roofs. I was one of the ones that spearheaded the initiative last year to get certain members of the board to look into the metal roof thing. But I was also opposed to this type of roof just by the nature of the way it looks. I don't like the one people use the lake house as an example. Well, it's on the lake house, so why can't it be on my house? Well, I don't like the roof on the lake house. It doesn't look great. That's my opinion.
Well, to
It
be
is a
fair,
commercial building though, and it's it's
but
different.
it's not the same
purpose.
product. It's not. You can see the rivets on the lake house. And further, I mean, if we're talking about aesthetics and neighbors feeling how they feel about what's next door, I don't even get me started on mine. But there is a house across from the pool who just had a blue roof installed. You can't tell me that anyone wants to live next to that. It is a blue shingle roof that was just installed this week.
Blue house, blue roof.
It looks like Smurfville.
I
I
do
would be
not
appalled to
remember-
live next to it.
I do not remember any requests for a blue roof coming through.
Well,
Jennifer,
there is one.
There's one now.
Jennifer, will you look into this, please?
Groundbreaking.
I'll look into it. She'll take care of that tomorrow.
Thank you for bringing that at our attention. That's going to be handled tomorrow.
And I mean, beyond that, like even if you drive down Watercolor and look at the people that have the tile roofs and
They're black.
they're covered in mold. I mean, this is going to be a situation where that will never happen. It would never happen in our house anyways, even if we had a tile roof. But
I understand. I
we're
don't
talking
think
about aesthetics.
don't get me wrong. I don't think it looks bad, right? I think the pictures you sent, they look good. Just like I think log cabins look good.
It's
But
not a lot. Oh, well.
It doesn't look good in Fishhawk West. That's all I'm saying.
Can I make a
But
motion?
it's all over Fishhawk West.
You may
In
make a
pieces.
In pieces.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to motion for the approval of the metal roof for 6001 Shell Ridge Drive. Can I get a
I'll
second from
second.
anyone?
I'll
Rebecca?
second.
Well,
seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 aye,
Aye.
but I would amend the emotion to say motion it for a vote, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just, that's okay. I mean, but,
Thank you.
yeah, so it's, the motion should be to motion to vote or, and then everybody votes to approve or not approve. Sorry, it's just, so are there any nays? I guess is the question, right?
Any nays?
I am a nay.
Okay.
Philosophically and procedurally, I'm a nay.
Now, everybody who's here has voted, right?
Yes. So that is
We have one nay.
1 nay and 5 ayes. So the motion carries.
May,
So-
may I ask or make a suggestion, Mark, if I may?
Yes, sir.
We want to put this on an agenda to say, well, we set a precedent. Should we modify this section of the ARC?
I think it's worth considering. I think now that we have one, I think we should look at it and like now the motion is passed at this point. So I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy you guys will get what you want. I hope it looks great. And if we change now that we moving forward, we'll address the ARC. We'll set a maybe next year.
Yeah,
We'll
oh,
be in
maybe,
another roof committee. We'll have some vendors come in, give us some presentations and look at this type of roof. And like Patty said, this is the first one. Maybe there'll be more, and then it won't stick out. And then it'll just be like every other house.
okay. Good luck, Palmers.
And
Thank you
thank
for
you
your
for
time.
following the process.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is the pool. So we got to pick a pool structure,
How's it
and then
going?
and then the two little whatever little water features we want to add to it. So let's see, I think we were down to 2, right? There was the very large one, which is the 301 Bravo, I think it was, and then there was the pirate ship. So does anybody want to talk about that or voice their opinion? No?
I definitely feel like the pirate ship is a more sustainable option, and I feel like it's going to give us a lot more longevity. I think the other one has a lot of bells and whistles, but it probably comes with some extra maintenance and, you know, breakable parts. And the one that we had when the community was built was a smaller version of that, a much smaller version of that. And, you know, we're 10 years in, 11 years in, and it doesn't look so great, and a lot of parts are broken and those types of things. So from you know, just, you know, using that comparison, I think the pirate ship is a little better option. And I think, you know, it looks like a resort, which is, you know, kind of the objective in my opinion. But so that those are just my thoughts on it.
Let's do this because I think I got a sense that we're all in agreement. Does anybody not want the pirate ship?
Pardon me, I'm sorry. Lungs are bad today. So I like the pirate ship, but as I said in my email, my only concern is it's bold, right? And as you know, so are we as a community going to say why did you not stick with what we had? You know, and I'm not saying that's not a reason to do it. I actually like the pirate ship. So, you know, so the answer is I just have reservations, mainly because I don't think and it's a large ticket item that we didn't buy them. That's my only concern. But, and here's the but why I support it, because we have time constraints that we discussed at the last meeting, right? And we got to get it in for the production. We got to get it in for the pricing. And the board is in agreement, so we can move forward approach to it. So that's my concern, but I think the reasons to move outweigh the concerns.
Has anybody talked to the neighbors about this and shown them the sketches? And anybody got any like crowd feedback on this?
I told one neighbor that I think should be pleased with it, and it's going to be bold, and she said that's great. So you know, I know I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to do it without getting your approval and everybody else's approval that we were circulating it. So
Agreed. Yeah.
It
I
was
think I think that's a great idea though, you know, in sharing that. I mean, I was the same. I was being very careful with sharing that info, but you know, does it make sense for us to take a few days to actually circulate it to people we know? Just asking.
It would, but we have to make a decision tonight.
We don't want the price to go up. Plus, everything's on YouTube, guys. The meeting was posted on YouTube. Yeah.
I talked to my neighbor. She's a teacher at Stour. She's got 2 little kids. Showed her a picture of it. She absolutely loved the pirate ship over the other one. She didn't understand why the one that looks bigger than the one we have but similar cost more than the pirate ship. So like that was at least her perspective or their family's perspective.
yeah, no, and I was afraid that one was going to be too big there too. The 301. I'm afraid that, you know, without walking it, I was afraid it was going to be too big. So I'm comfortable. I think we should go. That's I'll make a motion that we vote on the pirate ship, but maybe I'm going to pause on that because we should decide, are we going to get the other 2 pieces?
But we can do one without the other 2. So make the motion for the pirate ship, and then we can motion for this.
Motion, put the pirate ship to vote as the best option and put it to a vote.
Second.
Second.
Thomas beat you.
I made one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to a pirate ship?
No, it's cool.
All right, none opposed. Motion carries. All right, we're getting a pirate ship. Now we got to pick 2 little water features to go with it. I'll go first because I'm super excited about this. So I just like the palm tree and the cannon, considering gallons per minute that we got to do, height variations, just kind of the general effect, durability, kids climbing on it, all of these things. I think those are the 2 best, and price. I think those are the 2 best options.
One
I
question.
agree. Yeah, I agree with that.
One question on the palm tree was, does the palm tree have the same hurricane stability as the ship did? I know there was a talk about the extra things to keep the ship up. Does the palm tree have something similar?
Dawn.
Sorry, I was unmuting.
Okay.
So yeah, so the ship is wind rated for 140 miles per hour. And you're looking at the same structural content as far as anchoring and the foam structure itself. So it's made of the same bits. So, you're probably still looking at the same wind load.
Yep. And if you read through the documents, you saw that whatever we select, palm tree, cannon, whatever, the documents said they can be changed out. So if one gets sun damaged or damaged by a hurricane or whatever, I assume it's a few bolts and they unscrew it and they take it off and they can put a new one on.
Yeah.
That's the way the documents led me to believe. So,
Or you can repair it. You don't have to rip it out and replace it necessarily. It's going to certainly depend, Mark, on what happens, but there are repairing options.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm on mute. My only question is Mark, I agree with you. I think I like the chest, but I'm fine with the palm tree and I'm fine with the cannon. Do we have the budget for it? Because I thought those were like they're both at about the same price, right? There were some cheaper that I didn't know if budget was an issue from that perspective.
We put the money in the budget for next year, Max. So we have the amounts that are planned reserve, which will cover the resurfacing and the play structure, and then we added additional money to the budget next year to compensate for the difference between what was originally planned in the reserve. So we should have plenty of money to cover. And if we needed to this year, we will have, it looks like I ran the numbers earlier today. It looks like we will have a little bit of carryover. So we could even add a little bit of that to reserve if we wanted to cover the difference for next year. If there's any, for the 2 additional pieces that we want to place in.
That sounds great. I think it's a great option. And my vote is always, if there's carryover money, we don't carry it over anymore. We put it into reserves.
Yeah.
It's just that's just the way to get ahead. Any unexpected surplus should go into reserves as opposed to paying down the dues for the next year. We went down that years ago, and it's not a good path to go. So, and thank you. I'm all in. So we're going to vote on the next piece?
yeah. So does anybody want anything other than the cannon and the palm tree? All right. I mentioned that we select the cannon and the palm tree as our 2 water features in the pool. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Variety of seconds. Any further discussion?
Negative. Book it, Dano.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. This is going to be awesome.
It's fantastic. I may.
I wish I was a kid again.
No, who was it that said they were going down the pirate ship first? Was it Scott,
Thomas.
Henry, or Thomas?
Thomas, he's the one that wants to go down the pirate ship.
I don't know if you guys
Okay,
want-
I want in too. Okay,
No.
this isn't exclusive to you guys. Okay.
All right. No, I think we do it as a revenue. If you put $5 in the lottery ticket, is whoever wins gets to go down the thing.
I'll tell you
The cost.
You know what we should do next time for a fundraiser is either pie in the face or the dunk tank for board members. People would love that.
Yeah, you make a lot of money.
Record profits, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pie in the face of the board
But then we
president.
have to pay
lineup.
taxes on it.
Of
So
course.
let's just
Okay.
make it $10.
I think
All right.
just a couple. I think we had a couple of things maybe to just kind of update the rest of the board members on things going on in the background before we adjourn. But I think we're done with Dawn and Don. They can, unless they have anything else to tell us.
But
No.
what is our next step, Dawn? That's what I want to know, because I know there has to be a committee to pick the colors and stuff like that. So what is
Right.
our next steps?
So what we're going to do is I'm going to update the proposal with your choices. So it's exactly as you've chosen. So we remove the other options and we have a nice clean contract. From there, you'll sign that. And what we'll do is we'll then sit down together, we'll plan it out, and we'll make color choices. And then we'll talk about invoicing for the deposit so that we can begin the engineering process.
All right. I think what I'd like to do, it's just a thought coming across my mind, is Jennifer, we'll make an announcement of what the pool is going to look like, but these selections, put a rendering up there, and then maybe we can put out some sort of vote to the children of the community. What color do you want your pirate ships to be? I don't know, something like that. We can figure it out. We can spitball that after a meeting or something like that. But
I don't know. It might be lime green. That's not necessarily the best color.
listen, the color's got to get picked approved by the board, right? So
Yeah, and then give them the choice of what we approved.
Yeah, we give them options to pick from.
Exactly, Rebecca. That's it.
And there's one option. You can
But
get,
what I'll
Yeah.
do is we'll go through what those color choices are. And then you can set it forth for the children to, make their choice. And, listen, you can make a little event out of it, everybody color their pirate ship and create a line drawing for them to color,
good idea.
actually, I think the people that live on Shellridge by the pool should get to pick the color.
Not a blue house.
You got a blue house and now you have a
Is that
silver.
because you live there, Mac?
Oh, no.
I do live there.
I was
Yeah,
just gonna ask
Yeah.
that.
it had to be an alternative there.
Mac works it that way, Scott. You'll see.
Wait, well, you'll see he didn't say anything when they talked about his blue roof earlier.
I was out at a meeting today and my roof is on. I have no idea what color it is because it was dark and there are people still working on it. So no, we put the same color on that we had, same type of shingle. We played by the rules, no changes.
Oh, no.
All right, I don't want to keep Dawn and Don any longer than we need to. Is there anything else you need to tell us before we send you guys out of here?
No, I think we're good right now. I think our big thing is updating the proposal for your sign off. And then once we have that, we'll start taking those next steps and communicating with you on that.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
No, thank you. That was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm very happy for you because it's going to be sexy and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, wait.
Listen, I love this stuff. So to me, it's sexy. What can I say? All right. Thank you. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dawn, so much.
All right. Have a good night now. Bye-bye.
Next thing I want to talk about real quick is the Santa thing this weekend. I appreciate everybody that volunteered some time. Any time that you can spare, it doesn't have to be like 1 hour block, but any time that you can spare so it's on Saturday from noon to 4, and we're going to get there a little bit early to set up, and then on Sunday from 10 to 2. So like a half hour on each side, right? There's going to be set up and clean up. We got hot apple cider and cookies and all kinds of things like that, and crafts for the kids. So we need kid wranglers, we need table cleaners. There's like a reset in between each group of kids at the top of the hour. So it's there's some things to do. It's fun. We did it last year. It's not like real difficult or nothing. You just have to manage people around, and the kids will all sit and listen to Santa tell stories and things. So please show up whenever you can, however much time you can dedicate and donate. The busiest hours, I'll tell you right now, are the first and last hour of each day. We are like on Saturday and Sunday, the first hour, we are maxed out. There's going to be probably 20 kids, 30 kids there, easy for that hour. And then they cycle out, and then a whole new kids come in.
That's where my kids are signed up on.
All right.
Yeah. Marguerite and I are going to be there on Saturday. And I'll try to stay as much as I can. She has an evening event with some ladies in the neighborhood, so I don't know what her schedule is, but I will try to be there as much as I can that time. So could you tell Crystal that I haven't had a chance to send an email back?
She's texting right now. She's on, but she's listening in the background and studying. She's just telling me that it's going to be a significant number of children, more than that, during certain hours, like maybe upwards of 50 or 60. So
yeah, I'll try to be there as much as Saturday, and Marguerite's coming down too. So Chris, there Saturday. I'll try to get there half hour before opening if it's just me, but I'll do that.
Yeah, Mark, I'll commit to that too. I'll be there 30 minutes before to help set up. And even if I leave, come back, I'll do what I can to support as much on Saturday. But for sure, I'll be there at 1 no matter what.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
I guess my son and I are going to be there all day on Sunday. Should we come a little before 10 or should we come at 10?
If you can come a little before, that'd be great. Maybe a half
Okay,
hour.
I think I had it on the calendar to come 10 to 2, but I just didn't know. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure if I come a half an hour early that it's going to be okay. So
Crystal, I know you're listening. Do you have any other thing that you want to pass to anybody, any of the volunteers?
I think I heard her say, help.
Okay. Got it. All right. So that was that. What else do we need to talk about? Patty, anything else we want to talk about with the board members?
No, I think that should do it.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm gonna go hit up the Girl Scouts in the lake house right next door. And if they're old enough, I'm gonna see if they want to volunteer and hopefully get signed up on a badge,
Oh, great idea.
right?
That's a good idea. Let's talk about Westlake for a second. So Westlake is going to submit their budget. They're going to. Oh, Crystal's texting me. She said her mic didn't work for some reason. She said, "Thank you all for the help." So on the 18th is when we are going to go over their budget.
Invited them to the meeting.
Either they're going to make quorum, and there's a couple of outcomes, right? They'll make quorum, and then our budget will get disapproved, and then their budget will get approved, or they won't make quorum and our budget stands. And that's pretty much, if they don't produce a budget, which I think they will, if they don't produce a budget, but they do cancel ours, then it'll go back to last year's until we make a new one.
Yeah, just adding in transparency, I'm not seeing chatter that's saying that a budget is going to be recommended. Just as an FYI, just questions that they're waiting on answers from Patty.
And then I sent everything to Karen yesterday. I have actually 2 things I need to get from Rebecca, but everything else has gone.
It seems like Patty keeps answering the RFIs, and then more RFIs come in. Things that are like, oh, well, we want pictures of the trees that were replaced. We want, and lots of little, eventually you have to make a decision based off the information you have. And a budget is just that. It's an estimate of how much money you're going to spend. It's not a dime for dime determination of how much money you're going to spend. So I feel fully in my heart that we did the best job that we could, and we produced the best budget, and not a penny more than we needed to charge people, and not a penny less either.
And actually, they're going to post a loss for this year. They will. So it's there. We didn't have enough money to cover what the expenses were. So we will post a loss for this year.
And that's just that standard expenses, not even the extras.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But
so it's not a huge loss, but it is. I mean, I just looked at the numbers this afternoon. Currently they have a net operating income of about $5,600 before the expenses for December, which are about $6,500. So we're going to have at least $1,000,
Deficit
loss. Mm-hmm. Yeah, loss.
Okay.
For the year. Mm-hmm.
So that'll be on the 18th. And then on the 19th will be our election night meeting. Really, so Patty's going to send out the mailers next week. We were unable to get more than 3 candidates. We only have 3. So Henry, Scott, and then what's the other gentleman's name from Encore that volunteered?
Jeff Longo.
Jeff. Yeah. So by virtue of the fact that there's no one competing, you guys will be elected to serve a 2-year term. So welcome to the Thunderdome.
So
2 go in, 1 come out.
So let me be clear. So I've been fired, right?
Not until next month.
Okay.
Unless you, Mac, if you voice your desire to run, then we will have to have an election.
No. But thank you. I said at the first meeting I was with the new folks. It's a great team. So it's a pleasure. But I'm making the right decision. That doesn't mean I can't help.
Yeah, definitely. be a community member who actually comes to meetings and supports. Like so much appreciated, and you do an amazing job, Mac. So we hope so.
Thank you. All right.
See,
Do we have time for the meeting with Westlake on the 18th?
I didn't hear you.
oh,
Do they have a time set maybe?
7 p.m.
7 o'clock.
Seven, yeah, lots
So
of.
are we doing the year-end board meeting then, or is that just a special meeting?
Nope, that's just a Westlake meeting on the 18th.
And then the
And
regular
we'll-
board meeting is on the 19th. I think that's.
So
true.
when do we have to have their budget if they're going to submit one, Patty? Because I mean, if they're submitting a budget that is not going to cover their bills, then I mean,
Then they get special
matter.
assessed at the end of the year.
If they submit a budget, my intent is the motion to approve it.
Yep.
If they put the work in.
Yep.
I mean, no, we let them know that they, they'll be underfunded and they'll have a special investment.
But just for my clarity, they're supposed to submit the budget on the 18th.
Yep.
It
would be
Yeah,
nice
because,
if sooner, but
The only person that needs it ahead of time is Rebecca to get it into the books with the bookkeeping company, right? Like I don't need it to make a decision ahead of time. I know what the best budget is because we made it. So I don't need to see any other budget. If they
Agreed.
want it better, approved.
I can tell you that I'm on there. There's no chatter about a budget, none. Like
So
just
created
questioning.
nothing. Yes.
they must have now on the 18th, they must have 21 people from distinct houses. People that are
Present.
not renters must be present at the lake house.
Because
to
it's not going to
establish-
be Zoom at all.
to
Yeah.
establish-
Yeah. And you saw my note too, Mark, about, because I'm a resident, should I
Yes.
not be there or am I
Absolutely.
okay?
Absolutely.
But, right. But do I count on the 21?
Yeah.
To you. If you
Yes,
Right.
we should.
That's why I asked Max. So like, because if that means I come later, to be in, or I zoom in, just letting you know, like, I'm worried about that. So that's why I'm bringing that up.
Says nomination.
Henry dropped. Looks like we lost Henry.
I think he was trying to talk and maybe hit it.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
you have every right to be there. I would never tell you to stay home.
Well,
I just don't.
You
I
can
didn't-
you can choose not to.
Oh, okay. All right. So I can be there, but say, hey,
Mhm.
I'm not in the vote. Okay.
You're
Or
not
you,
part of it.
yeah, or you can vote no, right? Like you can say, so when we're going to put it to a vote, if there's 21 people present, we will put it to a vote, and the
It has
vote
to
will be
be.
the vote will be worded somewhere around like, do you vote to reject the board's budget, something like that. We'll word it in the proper way, but so 21 residents representing homes need to vote yes, we reject the board's budget, right? So if 25 people show up, 21 still have to vote yes to reject the budget because 21 is the majority of the community. So yeah, so if you show up and there's only 21 people there and 20 people vote yes and you vote no,
Get to know.
then the board's budget stays.
and
How about
Patty, you
that?
said it's at 7 o'clock on the 18th or 6 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
7.
7. Okay.
I wanted to
And
make it
then-
at a time where I felt that more people could make it and could attend.
yeah, that's good.
So
Fair.
And then the following night is the board meeting on the 19th at 6:30.
yes.
So it looked like Rebecca was in her calendar, so I was just making sure that.
I am. I'm putting it on my calendar now. I didn't have it on my calendar, so.
To be clear, the meeting on the 18th should take no longer than 20 minutes. This is a very procedural thing. It's not emotional at this point. There's no debate. Either mathematically they make the numbers or they don't. And that's all it comes down to.
Do we need to add it to the HOA calendar online?
Yes.
It is on the. You didn't put it on the
I have
calendar?
not put it on the calendar yet
Should.
because I didn't know how to do it because the calendar everybody sees.
That's okay.
Okay,
You can make it public.
okay. And I haven't seen the full information time-wise yet, so it's fine. I'll put it on.
Well, let's be clear. It's an open board meeting. It's not a closed meeting, so anybody in the community is welcome to come, correct?
It's Westlake. No, I don't think so. Westlake is calling the meeting.
Yes,
But-
I mean, anybody in the community can come, but
Yeah.
only the Westlake people have the right to speak or be counted.
Yeah, if we have a quorum and we're having a meeting, it has to be open unless it's for litigation or personnel matters.
Mhm.
So we need to post it like it's an open meeting. And the only agenda item is the Westlake budget issue. But we can't make it a closed meeting. It's not their meeting, it's
No,
our
it's not
board.
close. No. It was never meant to be closed. It was just, we weren't making it public to.
Yeah.
When we send out the board, like the agenda, I sent to the whole community.
Yeah,
And
that-
just
yeah.
to the Westlake people. So it's a Westlake board meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Westlake special meeting.
Well, I would say it's a special Fishhawk West HOA board meeting. The agenda item is Westlake budget challenge or something like that. So it should be just a regular meeting, a special meeting, which they all are, and just then it's just open, so anybody can come. I'm sensitive to that. Now, no, if they see that it's just Westlake, people aren't going to come. But otherwise, yeah, that's the way to go, I think.
Right. So
It's our board. They're coming to present, right? You're running the meeting, Mark, correct?
So they signed a petition to have the board call a meeting to consider the Westlake budget.
Exactly.
So
So you
we are calling a vote, and
Yep.
so before that starts, Patty, you're going to need to verify people when they come in, because if we have multiple people, like if it is open to the entire community and other people show up, they don't count towards quorum.
Right.
right.
Same with multi-people household too, right?
Right. It's only one vote per.
Yep.
One
Yeah,
vote,
Verify, have their address.
driver's license, something like that, then you can verify in that folio.
Yeah, we got to do it right. But yeah, but if they can come, but they're just observers. It's not, they don't have any role in the meeting. Right. You're in charge, Mark.
Anything else we got to talk about?
No, I'm good.
Mark, do you want me to give a quick update on, I know you sent a message earlier today about, where we're at with the 10% threshold carryover.
Yes, please.
So, just to give a quick overview, so I did some quick calculations, this afternoon. So for the master, right now, our current net operating income as of December. So I looked at it as of today. We haven't spent all the money, we don't have all of our expenses in for the month. So our average expenses per month for the master about $80,000 on average, and so that would give us not considering the unpaid expenses, we would be at about an 8% carryover for the master. With the expenses, it will be about 4%. So we're under the 10% threshold. Paired Villas has a negative operating income, so there's nothing carrying over. Sagewood, as of today, has $70,000 in net operating income, and they have about $17,000 in expenses, $17,500 a month. So that would be, without the expenses for December, it will be right at that 10% threshold. With the expenses at the end of the month, we should be under it at about 8% carryover. And then to Mac's earlier point, we can, if we get closer to the end of the month and we want to carry it over, so when we get to the board meeting, if we want to carry over any of the amounts and put that towards the repairs for the retaining walls, things of that nature in the reserve, we can do that. I know that there's some concern about the expenses for those retaining walls. And then Sandpiper currently has $64,000 in change, net operating income, average $15,000 a month in expenses. Without the expenses, we would be at about 12% carryover. With, following the expenses, it would be about 9%. So that's when we probably would want to look at doing some carryover, just so that we don't, have that income that we're going to get taxed on.
Sandpiper?
Sandpiper.
Yeah, they have a lot of roof issues right now that are still being worked on. So those bills are gonna be coming in hard and fast too.
Okay, so that probably would take it down. I just did an average across the year for their
Right.
expenses, Patty. So, and then Westlake is going to post a loss. We talked about that one already. So their current net operating income is about 5,600. Average monthly expenses are 6,500. So they're going to have a loss this year.
All right, thank you, Rick. So the only one that's close is Sandpiper. Am I hearing that correctly?
Sandpiper's close, even with the expenses for December. Sandpiper, without their expenses, they're running right at that 10% level. So if the expenses are a little lower this month, we might want to look at carrying something over. So those are the only two that I would suggest that we take any action on, unless we want to, take some of the carryover. We're going to have, I think, probably, I'm going from memory, so don't hold me to this, but I think it was about $70,000 for the master that we would have as net income. That would be about a 4% carryover. So we could, allocate, $50,000 or something like that to the reserve for the pool funding, for next year, if we want to do that.
Okay.
So that's just something for all of you to think about. And Thomas, I can work with you as well, just to get your thoughts and opinions as well.
Okay, sounds good.
Mhm. But that's it. I just, wanted to share that because that's a decision that we would really need to make by the end of the month if we're going to do any carryover.
So by carryover, you mean transferring it to the reserves or?
Correct. Like if we want to, have another expense, Patty, I know that you had been wanting to do some of that pool beautification. So, if we want to spend some of that money, so we're sure we're not going to breach that threshold, that would be a decision that we would need to make and move that money before the end of the month.
I'm sorry to make you repeat yourself, but could you one more time, the master, how much do we expect to have left? How much profit?
Forecasted based on based on everything that is in there today, it looks to be about 70,000. So considering, after the money that we would spend for December, so it looks to be about $70,000 of carryover, which is about 4% of the budget from last year.
That's about as close to perfect as you can get. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody else? Anything else they want to talk about? No? All right.
Good to go.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one's opposed. Everyone have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Adios.
everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.